more minutes. Make yourselves comfortable. We're going to start seated today. So eventually we want to make our way there. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So find a comfortable seat. Sit nice and tall. Settle in a little bit. Any type of a seat that's comfortable for you. If you want to bring your hips up off the mat a little bit, you may. We're going to focus on our topic and intention for today, which is the sixth chakra. So the sixth chakra is centered right at the center of the forehead, the third eye, and it concerns all the things that have to do with thoughts, wisdom, knowledge. And I want us today to think about that, not in the way of book learning necessarily, or having to study hard to come up with our conclusions, right? It's trusting our body's wisdom. Our body knows so much about what's going on with us. If we listen to our internal rhythms and our internal wisdom, we can find out a lot. So take a few minutes and try to focus on that area right in the center of the forehead. Maybe close the eyes or soften the gaze. Notice the quality of your breath, and try just gently to bring that breath all the way down to the low belly, feeling the belly expand, but also to the sides and pressing into the lower back when we inhale, and then gently exhale. Really tuning in and listening to our body, letting it tell us what truth it wants to convey. Many times we can be very distracted with our responsibilities, with our work or school, and we're letting those things get in the way. And then in those instances, we might want to take some time for ourselves, think about what is important. Get into the bigger picture. Take a few more breaths here. Count out 3 more breaths. Try to get that full range, inflating the lungs all the way and then releasing all the air all the way up. Take your time. Very nice. We're going to move into our first yin posture. So I'll just explain very briefly about yin. So we've got some new students. So yin, we hold our postures a little longer, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. They can be up to 7, 8, or 9 minutes, depending on what the pose is sometimes. What we're trying to do is get past what we normally work with the yoga class, which is the muscle. So muscles respond really well to rhythmic motion, a lot of warming, but those deeper tissues, like our ligaments, joint, and deeper fascia, really require longer holds and some time to have the benefits work into those areas. And as I often say, those deeper areas are responsible for about 50% of our flexibility. So if we're not working those deeper tissues, then we could be missing out on some of our flexibility potential. So we're going to come first to a Sphinx pose. So we're going to lie down on our belly. We're going to have our elbows underneath our shoulders. And don't worry, I will explain a little bit more about yin as we go through and how we're supposed to be feeling through these postures. So we're going to draw the shoulders back for our Sphinx pose, like we're trying to hold a pencil in between our shoulder blades. But because this is yin, after we're in this pose and we've got our shoulders back, we're going to let things relax. Just let gravity hold us up. So we do have a little strength with the arms holding, and then also with the neck. And we're letting the front of our body open a little bit. But we're using as little muscle as possible to hold this position. We're letting our hip bones come into the mat. And we're just focusing on our breathing. If this is not a comfortable position for us to be in, we feel a little stiff with our neck, we can put our forearms in front of us and just lay our head down on top of our arms. So still a nice little opening to the front body. So there's 3 phases to yin pose. One is just kind of getting into the pose. This one's fairly straightforward. So, but that can take some time sometimes. Secondly, we want to stay a while. So we want to get comfortable and we want to stay in our pose again for that 3 to 5 minute time frame, and then feel those benefits. The third thing we want to do is make any adjustments. So if we're not feeling a mild to medium sensation, and here we're talking about like the chest, the collarbones, and the shoulders, feeling that sensation, we want to make some adjustment. So we can move where our elbows are, we can come to lie down, we can use a prop to be on, but we want to stay in that mild to medium sensation mode throughout this process. So let's take some time and get comfortable in this pose. Focus just on the breath and the feeling we're trying to create in those joints and ligaments. We're about halfway done here. Make the adjustments you need. I want to give you one final option if you want to try it. We can let our head droop and our chin come toward our chest. Feel a nice long stretch along the neck, the back of the neck, if that's comfortable for you. In this pose, if you want to try it, but you need some more support, you can take your hands underneath your forehead. practice is very much guided by you. You choose what feels good in your body. I'm not going to tell you to be in a certain position or certain pose. My role here is to guide you and to show you options so we're staying healthy and injury-free and getting the benefits of the practice. Two more breaths. Very nice. Let's slowly start to come out. So we're going to take our hands underneath our shoulders and come up to a tabletop position, hands and knees. Take your time. And then take any movements here that feel good. In between our yin poses, we like to take some motion, stretch things out a little bit, and kind of let the juices flow back to those areas that we were putting some gentle stress on. Take a couple more breaths. Nice. We're going to move to child's pose next. So sink the hips back. We can keep the knees kind of wide toward the edges of the mat or bring them in more narrow. So again, take your options that are going to work for you. Wider is going to be more of a hip stretch. Narrower is going to be more of a lower back stretch. We're not feeling super comfortable in this pose, like we don't feel like we can stay here for about 4 minutes. Use any tools that you have by you, a blanket or a block. So we could have a block under the hips. We could have a blanket under the head. We could stack our palms under our head. Whatever we need to do to make ourselves a little more comfortable during this time. I will give you one variation, and that's, if you like, you can bring your palms together and then bend your elbows, and basically we're bringing our hands up above our head like a shark fin. This is a little tricep stretch, but only if you want it. Otherwise, just focus and breathe. The area of the forehead that is pressing into the mat right now corresponds with that 6th chakra, that center of knowing, wisdom, understanding. Let the energy flow to that area. Help it move with our breath. And again, let's focus on what our body is telling us, what wisdom it has for us. We're over halfway here. Make any little adjustments you need. As we've said, mild to medium sensation is best. We don't want to create too much stress, injury, certainly not pain. Three more breaths in this pose. Keep dropping the hips down toward the mat. Very nice. Let's release the hands if we had that little shark fin going on. We're going to shift forward to our tabletop once more. Just take some free movements. Maybe some cat-cow. We're going to transition to seated pose when we're ready. So one option is to sit back on the heels if that's comfortable for us. We can have a blanket between our seat and our heels if that helps that feel better. But we're going to do a chest opener, just a mild one here, by taking our hands back. And again, we can have blocks here if that makes us feel a little better. If we don't like sitting back on our heels, we can take our lower legs around and just come to straight legs or to cross-legged. That's better. The idea here is to have the hands behind our hips and the shoulders over the hands or the wrists and letting the chest open. So this is sunbather pose. Or if we've got our knees underneath us, we can call this modified hero. If you like, maybe drop the head back a little bit. That feels okay on the back of the neck. Holding with muscle just on the arms, using as little tension as we can in order to hold ourselves up. Relaxing the muscles of the face, relaxing through the front of the body, and then working toward that edge where we have that, just that mild to medium sensation. Things that we do want to look out for in this practice, we want to avoid any pain, obviously, but also any tingling or numbness. If we're feeling that, we need to move out of the pose a little bit. In these longer holds, our body may be telling us that it wants to come out of the position. We're feeling uncomfortable. This is really where the power and the benefit of yin comes in. So if we can teach ourselves to be in a position that we are not quite as comfortable in, we can control our body's reaction to stress. We're practicing here being in a stressful situation and allowing ourselves to be calm. About 3 more breaths here. Nice and slow. And then start to release. Come forward. For kneeling, we can take our hands to the mat. That feels good. Maybe take some side-to-side movements. If we like, we can take a downward facing dog here. If it feels good, or child's pose. Take your time getting there. If you want to try down dog. And since we're all in down dog, this will make it easy. We're just going to walk forward to the top of the mat. Our next pose is our only standing pose, and it is a forward fold. So we're not going to stay here as long as the other poses, just for a minute or two. If we need, we can bend our knees. We can have our hands propped up on something if we like that, if it feels a little better. And just letting the upper body dangle over the lower. Release. If we need a break from this pose, being in this inversion, we can come up to monkey pose or halfway lift. And then come back down for a few more seconds. Otherwise, working on staying still. Three more breaths here. Keep focusing. Very nice. Let's plant the hands into the mat if they're not there already, and then just bring the knees down back to our tabletop. Take your time. And take some movements with the neck, perhaps. You may feel a little bit of a cool rush as those areas that we were putting a little stress on, especially the neck and the lower back, are being rehydrated after our movements. All right, our next pose is going to be deer pose. So we're going to sit back and bring our feet to the outer edges of the mat. And we're going to let our knees fall down to one side, doesn't matter which. And we're working on some internal rotation. So my left leg, I move my knees over to the right side. My left knee is going to be, or my left upper leg is going to be mostly pointing toward the top of the mat. So I'm going to take my shoulders back a little bit, sort of like our sunbather pose, and let that internal rotation happen. If that's too much, pad underneath that knee. And we can also change the distance that our foot is from our knee. Let's see how that feels. Now what you can do as well, instead of coming back, is to go forward. I'm sorry, I should have said we can have our bolster near us. So if this feels okay and we want to have a lower back stretch, we can put our hands on the bolster or even rest our forehead on the bolster. I know it looks a little awkward, but it actually feels nice. And come forward. So this can be very nice and supportive, letting the bolster take that weight if it's something you like. But the foot position is going to be basically the same. So any position with the hands that you like, maybe walk them forward a little bit, or just leave them down by your sides. Nice. Make this comfortable for you. Two more breaths, nice and slow. Slowly come up, take your time. Let's take the knees up, feet on the mat. You can just take some side-to-side movements. We don't need to go too long in our counter pose here because the other side is actually our counter pose for this one. So when you're ready, let the knees fall over to the other side. And then whatever position is going to be comfortable for you. Again, it's okay to hang out in space and let your joints kind of carry a little bit of load as long as it is not painful. So we can break posture here a little bit. We can let our head droop. Our back can be somewhat rounded. As long as we're not creating pain and we can maintain our breathing during this pose. Three more breaths. And let's slowly come out. Very nice. Take any movements you like. Our next pose is dragonfly. So we're going to take our legs really nice and wide. This is basically a wide-legged seated fold. And we can, just like before, have our bolster with us if we need. We can come down maybe a little further than I can, then it's comfortable to lie down, perhaps with your upper body. Otherwise, having some support under the head is fine. Or we can hold it like this, their arms around it, just providing some support that way. And then coming forward slowly. So find what's going to work for you. Sink a little deeper into the pose. We're feeling some tension on the legs or the hips, but let this relax. We're going to learn a little bit about the sixth chakra. So deep into the mind lies the intuitive insight and visionary Ajna chakra. This chakra of inner vision governs our ability to see life as it is, as opposed to what we think is happening. Rather than just looking, we can move beyond the surface of our vision conditioned by our fear and judgment. Through Ajna, we get clarity, wisdom, and intuition, and we can view life through the eyes of the soul. In the ancient scripts, the seer was the person who had gained understanding by seeing beyond perception into their true nature. Drishti is the Sanskrit word meaning to have vision or wisdom. Like Ajna, it goes beyond the physical act of looking through our lens of perception and past the physical, mental, and emotional interpretations we make of our visual world. Our attention is the most valuable thing that we have. Where our eyes go, our mind and body ultimately go. We can spend a great deal of our day being distracted by our sight, getting caught up in the world through our eyes. Our eyes judge without context. A river is more powerful as one channel than several tributaries. Ajna asks us to use the power of focused seeing beyond the eyes to bring more clarity and perception to our life. When we balance the energy at the eye center, we're more intuitive, connected to the collective consciousness, can see things clearly and symbolically beyond form, and can visualize and remember dreams. So we're continuing to rest the forehead. Releasing any tension through the body that we may still find. If we have tension, we're working against ourselves in the pose. Let the tension reach those deeper tissues and provide that value. Provide that healthy stress. Awesome. Very slowly start to come out. Straighten the posture. Maybe take some movements with the shoulders. Perhaps come back to our sunbather position for a moment. Bringing the hands behind, rolling the shoulders back. And taking some deep breaths. Great. All right, once we're feeling good, we're going to come to a twist. So we're going to take one leg straight, and the other leg can come in, so we can pull with our hands and bring our heel close to our seat, sitting nice and tall. And then our twist is going to come that same direction as the leg. So I can wrap my opposite hand around that knee and then place my other hand behind me, just hugging that knee into the side, and then maybe looking over that shoulder. If we want a little deeper, and mind you, this is yin, so we're going to hold for a little while, you can take that foot over to the other side of the leg if you want to go a little deeper into the hip. So we are going to be here for a couple minutes. Find your comfortable pose. I do want you to consider sitting nice and tall for this, just because for these twisting poses, it can be a little damaging to the spine if we are twisting and we have not so great posture. So if I was kind of slumping into this. So we do want to continue to pull that shoulder back, but that's the only pressure that I've got. So I've got my hand on my leg and I'm drawing my shoulder back. Trying to use as little strength as possible. Easing into the pose. Some affirmations we might have for our sixth chakra. All the answers I need, I see within me. All the answers I need, I see within me. I trust my inner teacher. I trust my inner teacher. I see all things with clarity. I see all things with clarity. And let's release. Take your time. Maybe take the legs straight. Create a little movement, especially into the hips. And when we're ready, we'll go to the other side. So taking that foot next to the leg, drawing the leg close, then wrapping the opposite hand around the knee, taking the other hand behind, very close to the lower back, and looking over that shoulder. And then if we need it a little deeper, maybe taking that foot to the opposite side of the leg with the other side. Try to pull up a little bit through the crown of the head. Two more breaths. And release. Nice job. Move around a little bit as we come back to center. Then we're going to come to our last pose, which is going to be revolved head to knee. So we're going to bring one leg in. So our foot is going to be very close to that other leg. The knee's going to be bent. We're going to take our hand down our leg on that straightened leg. And then taking our other hand, we can bring it to our knee or our thigh and draw that shoulder back. So we're trying to torque just a little bit to bring our same side shoulder straighter on with that straightened leg and draw our other shoulder back. As an option, and this is probably not going to be for everyone, but you can take that arm that's behind and lift it up and over and open up the side body more. That's going to be a much more intense stretch to the side body. So your mileage may vary on that one. Work on using your breath as a tool. Expanding through that side body that's opening as we breathe in, and as we exhale, getting a little deeper into the pose, getting a little further toward that straightened leg. We can do that if our hand is up or down. And our hand that's on our leg, by the way, our hand that's on our straightened leg, we shouldn't be pulling ourselves toward that leg, that hand. The hand could just be resting. Letting gravity do most of the work here. We don't want to be pulling and forcing in practice. Piece a little deeper. And let's slowly start to come up. Take your time. Move a little bit through the trunk. And then we'll switch legs and come to the other side. Again, our arm rests on that straightened leg. The other arm can come behind, up and over, or we can rest it on our leg and just provide a little platform for our shoulder to open. Slowly come up. Move a little. Take some good breaths. And before we move to our Shavasana, we can take a seated forward fold just for a moment. Let things stretch out, maybe reach forward. Feel that opposition between the sit bones and the fingertips walking forward. Take another 3 breaths. Let's walk the hands back in, and then we'll take them behind and open the chest a little. Maybe look up like we did before. Breathing right into the center of the chest, letting the shoulders drop down and back. Maybe the chin comes up a little. One more breath. Big inhale into the heart space. Nice, and exhale. Let's come back to seated. I want to give you an option of either staying seated or coming to full Shavasana for this. So whatever you're more comfortable with, staying in for a few moments. If you prefer Shavasana, using any tools or comfort items that we need. If you need anything that you don't have on hand, just raise your hand and I can grab it for you. Let's make ourselves nice and comfortable. Let the back body sink into the mat. If you need to, maybe work the shoulders down a little bit and maybe walk them underneath, so walk the shoulder blades underneath a little bit to open the front body and better engage our breathing. Follow the energy of your breath. Follow the wisdom that our body has. Tell us what's going to be healthy and comfortable for us. Let's count out 5 more deep breaths. As we exhale our 5th breath, we can start to move a little bit. Maybe wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes. Starting to wake up the joints. And when we're ready, let's take our knees into our chest and turn to our side. Feeling refreshed and renewed. Feeling like we've gotten into those deep spaces that are difficult to get into. Feeling some pride that you showed up for yourself today and you worked through your practice. Let's slowly start to come up to a seated position. Stay nice and tall. We're going to take a few more breaths here. I want to invite you to try tapping into the area of the chakra that we've been working on, just right in the middle of the forehead. Just to bring some energy and awareness to that area. Just some very gentle vibrations. And let's release. Take our hands back down into our lap or on our knees. We're going to end our practice with a chant. The sound that taps into the sixth chakra is like a humming sound. Let's release the breath that we have. Inhale deeply and say Thank you guys so much for coming tonight, allowing me to lead you in your practice. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you next time. Make sure to drink lots of water. Namaste.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Have a good night, Kathy and online friends. We'll see you soon.